Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Owoh's Corner, my own little corner of art. And I am working on a short animation. I've been working on like the rough in betweening phase for this for like the past few days now. And I don't know, it's just something for me to do. Sadly, I don't really have much to talk about. I know most people who stream, they like to talk about 100 different other stuff. I'm just not that kind of person. I have really nothing to say. So I'm just working on this. And it's actually meant to be a fighting animation. So this is just sort of the skeleton phase where I'm just working on sort of like the basic motions of the characters. I wanted to work more on my dynamic lighting. So this is actually the let's see. I'm going to insert a blank right here. And another blank one right here. And so essentially what I'm going to do is hide these other frames because I solely want to focus on basically how it's set up is the characters are going to be fighting on top of a train. So I'm going to have to like design the background, probably some trees and like a skyline. But essentially the characters are supposed to be fighting on a train. But because I want to work on more action centered animation as well as just my settings in general, I am going to be focusing, I am going to do like this little camera tilt or camera turn. So right here. I'm going to save this. And then this other, I think it's going to go. Now, you guys can't see this, but what I'm doing is I'm actually using my drawing pen as sort of a guiding line. It's something I learned while I was in college where you can actually use the professor used like wooden popsicle sticks and like wooden rods, but essentially it allows you to find which direction your line is going. And it's actually really good for animators because what it allows us to do is it essentially allows us to keep things somewhat consistent, I guess you could say. So this line is going right here. And this line is essentially meant to be the bottom of the train. Now I actually have to find this line right here. And I'm going to be using my guiding line to find where that is. The back of the train is also going to be, let's say, about right here as well. this area right here. So that is going to be right here. Now let me just turn my onion skin off and see. Now while I'm at it, what I can do is I'll also be able to sort of add more detail to this area right here. And so if I turn my onion skin back on, and I may actually have to lower this a bit, but using the same guiding lines, what I can do is sort of actually going to be in this middle area right here. And sometimes it is okay not to use hash marks if you just have the mental image of where your line is supposed to be. You can sort of not necessarily cheat yourself, but just for the sake of the project, just go all the way through with it. And then I'm using my guiding lines again. Now, I do want to save, and that's a really big thing when you're working on an animation, is make sure you are saving because you don't want to lose your progress. It is very easy to mess up or like get something wrong in your animation. Now, this is going to be one of the more drastic changes just because of how drastic the motion is going from a near sideways position all the way to a top down view. And so this is a bit of a trick I learned, but when you are in betweening from frame to frame, it's actually very good to look at the points of intersection. Like I like to look right here and right here because right here is sort of the cross between this line and this line because they're both meant to be the same position or the same area of the animation. And so what I end up doing is I'll actually do a shorthand and I'll do like a, for the sake of the animation, this line shifts right here. Same for this line and this line. It shifts and sort of the halfway point becomes right. It's more so like this. Now it is gonna be, it can be a lot of guesswork, which technically speaking, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, I like to see animation as one big puzzle. It's like a puzzle for me of trying to figure out how to get from one position to another. This is also when I like to play with design. Well, not play with design, but I like to play with my zoom level. And so I will actually, like, yeah, I could have kept that instead of erasing it before. And then for this line, I will erase this. And we can go right here. Now, because of the way this future layer is going to present itself, essentially that bottom part of the track is actually underneath or residing down here. So what I end up having to do is I will actually draw sort of a guiding line right here, and I will just draw sort of the in-between for these two line segments. And if you actually look at the two lines, what you notice is eventually these two lines are going to intersect, and that's sort of what we do as animators is sort of giving the impression of position. Now, what we can do is play it back and see how far we get. Now, this is actually going to be the hard part for me because this becomes almost an extreme. This becomes almost an extreme zoom in. So we essentially have to make up or sort of pretend where the intersection is going to be or where the top and bottom of the train is going to be. And that is going to be off screen. So I am going to add a new layer or add a new keyframe. And so essentially we're going to have to go from the back of the train, which is right here. Ooh, let me actually go to a future layer. So for the sake of in-betweening, what we're going to do is the back of the train is going to be right here, and the top of the train is going to be right here. And in this future frame, essentially, they're going to be on the first trolley. So there actually is going to be a bit of the train back here. So what I can do is using my previous guidelines, I can sort of make the impression of the train, of like the caboose and certain areas. So I will just be. I'm essentially trying to jury rig the back of the train to sort of give the impression that again there's more than just what we're not seeing. Now, when you are actually animating or just designing in general, it's best to keep the vanishing point imaginary. You don't want to actually draw the vanishing point because it can confuse you. But not everybody is visual. So, what I have to do as the animator and what I have to do as the streamer is I sort of have to make the artistic representations for the sake of my audience. I'm willing enough to say that. Let's get back to the actual in betweening phase. And so, right here, this is the top and this is the bottom. And so, I have to find a way to take this top down to this bottom. And this is where we have to use some of our imagination for the sake of this project. And so, what I like to do is I like to find the midpoint or the imaginary line where this is going to be. So, using that, it looks like the midpoint is going to be somewhere along in here. So, I'm going to just draw a line right here. And it's okay if the line is a bit extra long. I usually do all of this in my head, in my mind. So I'll find the imaginary line and I'll draw just a basic straight line. I usually don't draw it for the audience. Now it's going to be the same for this line right here and this line right here where we have to find the midpoint. And for the sake of this, it's going to be off screen, so about right here. Now this is where it gets a bit easier because we actually do see the midpoint or the intersection right here. And so what we're going to do is draw the transition line of where this line sort of becomes this line. Though that's still not technically where it is because the like the actual no, because I'm actually gonna have to go back because that's not where the thing is. So if this is right here, then that means that the actual vanishing point is right here. This was just sort of So it's going to be right here, and then it comes out like this, and then the actual side of the train is more so going to be coming out right here into off the screen. And so the actual train is going to be a bit wider. And it's going to be like this. Then I'm going to have to use the eraser tool, and I'm going to have to clean up some of this. Let's do another one. And then we can erase this just so we don't get confused later, because that's a very easy thing. Like sometimes when it comes to animation, what ends up happening is people will have an understanding and acknowledgement of the fundamentals, but because they're working and operating in the moment, they'll get confused, and the previous stuff they drew or worked on will sort of mess with their mind. And that's how you get animation errors. So now that we got that, we can go back to this layer, and because you see I drew that earlier, when in actuality the intersection is more so about right here. Whereas the intersection for this line and that line is going to be more so right here. So it's already going to be taken so drastically. It's already going to be taken so drastically off screen. It's almost like I don't even need to color it or draw it out. So we are going to do the halfway points right here. And this is going to be the edge of the train right here. So we can go back over and we can erase this excess that comes off right here. Now this is supposed to be the middle of the train for the previous layer, and this is the center of the train for the next layer. So what we can do is find the midway point, and it's actually going to be, now I actually tried to avoid using the same line over again just because I don't want to mess anything up. Now, this is going to be right here. This is going to be about right here. And that is going to be about right here. Now this is where we're really going to be selling that illusion of zooming in because we're actually going to have to look at these lines right here, and we're sort of going to have to shift how they function. So this line right here is going to be moving up here. So we're going to have to take the midway point between those two lines and sort of find out where they join. So the midway point is going to be about right here. Wait a second. Okay, this line and that line is going to be about right here. And then that line and that line is going to be about right here. Now we're going to take off the onion skin just so we can see the animation in full again, so we can see how easy it transitions. And what I like to do is I do like to use the loop just so I can play the animation over again so that it's at least seamless for the scene I'm making. That's good enough. Now, what I could have done is I probably could have added another frame in between. But sadly, I don't really have that kind of time. So I'm just going to leave it as it is with this transition. And we're going to move forward. Now, what I can do to sort of make up for that is add a bit more detail to this. And this is where the onion skin comes in again. And I do want to just erase some of this so I have more room to work with. As long as the lines are implied, then you as the artist can still pick up the mental image so you can go forward and keep animating. Now we can bring our characters back. Now, I would say when it comes to the pink character, she's going to be easy to draw because sort of what I did as a shorthand was I made her poses easier, so then all I really have to do is just tween her, and her attack really only comes in this front perspective, this first person perspective motion. What's going to be hard is the other female character because she's actually running, and I have to pose her for every single I guess individual frame. Let's see. There are two, three, four, five, six. So there are 6 frames. So what I can do is do 3 frames on twos because the whole thing is that the two characters are closing in on the main enemy. And so they're actually supposed to be at least right here by now. Now, this may not be as clean as I want it to be. Because it's still not giving the impression that your character is running. But that's mainly on me because I've never really drawn or animated a character that has their hand outstretched while they're running. That's why it looks off. It's because the foot placement is wrong. This foot is supposed to be in the. This foot is supposed to be in the back, and this foot is supposed to be in the front. Er, and for the sake of this, I am going to leave it blank just because I don't want. The focus isn't really the transition frames, at least not at the moment. I mainly just want to focus on sort of the big action scenes. Now I am gonna have to reduce the size just because this character's model is a bit bigger than the others in the scene. That's usually what I end up doing by accident is I'll make the models too big. Let's see, what's my mental image for this character? Because the thing with her is that she uses her voice. I mean, I guess I could do like an energy blast. I think the hand is a bit too. Because I spent so much time with her, like having her hand held out, that I don't want there to be no follow through with that and become an animation error. This is actually like a lot of. Okay. over time, as you continue to animate, your eyes are going to get more accustomed to onion skinning. And I'm actually really good at it, but sometimes, especially when I have overlapping colors, I do like to actually augment the opacity of a layer just so I know what I'm focusing on and just so I can get a clear view of what it is, excuse me, I'm doing. I actually ate a little bit earlier, so like I don't try to burp on camera. That's not how I do things. It's just sometimes it escapes, or sometimes you'll actually hear me pause talking because like I gotta collect myself and collect my voice. My last stream, I was actually still sick and trying to animate, and that's probably why my last stream didn't do so good, and also why I've been so self conscious when it's been coming to streaming ever since, because I was sick while streaming, and I just felt terrible about that. I'm like, you know what? I felt so ashamed. I was just coughing on stream, and it was just terrible. And I'm like, why did I even do that? But now I know. And now I know I actually have to be more consistent with my streaming. Because there was a time where I was streaming like every Tuesday and Friday. Ooh, my video is doing 109. I got 109 views and 10 likes. That's actually really good. I'm actually really happy. It's been a while since I've made a video that really got views and likes like how I've wanted it to. But that's really just how I've been going about it is I'll just make a video, then what I do is I'll do like 2 or 3 shorts using clips from that video. And I do feel like I got some really good shorts out of my most recent video. I also did that, you know, play this for like 100 new subscribers challenge, which was pretty nice, pretty good. Um, and I still do feel like self conscious about doing that because I've never really been a challenges person. What I usually do is I'll just make my content and then go from there. I don't really do challenges like that, but maybe I should do more challenges. I'm also really dying to try that whole if you're an artist, stop what you're doing and whatever you're working on, post it. I really want to try that challenge. I'm actually going to onion skin this. And we're going to zoom in. So the foot is pretty much just going to stay in the same direction. I'm going to do is actually insert a few frames. So we're going to insert a frame right here. And I'll go back and clean this up later. Now I'm trying to figure out how this other foot is going to go. Because the thing is that she's twisting her body. They're both supposed to be females, but I'm gonna have to go back and like fix this pose right here, because that's not very. Hmm, dang, I gotta watch my words here. but I'm trying to evoke grace in their posture, and it's not really giving grace. Now, what I'm doing is I'm making foreshortening lines because what happens is as an object or character gets closer to the camera, it's meant to get bigger or smaller, and you're not going to see all of the character. And so, because she is essentially using her magic abilities, I have to sort of foreshorten her hand. And she's going to be pointing, so that's also another added mark. And then let's see here. Hmm. Yeah, that's pretty good. Pretty much gives the illusion that she's turning. And then what I want to do is uh-uh. I'll do something like red. This is just a placeholder color. And where is so what I've learned is it's actually easier to go from shot to shot, at least when you're doing action animation. Already have a mental idea of how you want your fight to go and sort of what are the big blows that are going to occur. So then you can work on those. And then if a character is winding up, you can have them getting prepared for their next attack. So I already have a mental image of how I want this fight to go and what's going to be the end, or rather where it's going to cut. I'm just sort of taking a mental second to let my mind refresh. That's sort of what I end up doing, is just giving my mind time to ruminate, because I have to figure out how I want the characters to react and respond. And that's why I was doing a study of Monty Ohm's animation, because what I really love about his works is not only does he play with the camera, but his characters are still doing something in the mid fight, winding up for an attack or opening. And that's really something that I want to, if I can't master it, at least get a better understanding of it. So then when I have these animations and when I do work on bigger projects, I at least have the muscle memory, or I at least take the consideration to think of things. Ooh, my foot hit something. I don't know if you guys heard that clutter or whatever. But so then I do have the muscle memory to keep certain things in mind when I'm animating. And where is this character's frame? And so the special thing about when you're drawing blows, especially when it's this close to the camera, what you sort of have to do is, and this animation actually does the dual purpose of not only am I working on my action animation, but I'm also working on my foreshortening, which is definitely an aspect of my art in general I have to work on. And so essentially, this is supposed to be the frame where the enemy sort of gets hit by the attack and he sort of grips his shoulder. Now, what I am going to have to do is I'm actually going to have to adapt this because even though I have the impression, it's not necessarily where or how I want it to be because the character is actually supposed to be turned a little bit. So I'm going to have to erase some of this and it's going to have to be because the concave of his body is actually meant to be turned. we're actually supposed to see less of this. And if we can erase this just a little bit. That's really the hardest part I've had with foreshortening is sort of figuring out how the body is meant to move and be when it comes to those sort of off angles. But it's all good. Actually, what would really help me is if I actually drew more of the hand and sort of how the hand is meant to, supposed to see a little bit more of the hand. And it would also help me if I actually angled the arm a bit more to where it was like a bit like this. Also, I do think that the thigh is up a little bit high. Shoot. Foreshortening is probably going to be the hardest thing that you do when it comes to just art in general because there's a lot of stuff you have to mentally keep note of. Because what's essentially going through my mind is this character shot sort of an energy blast at the shoulder of this character. And so in response, his shoulder got hit, so his shoulder is being pushed back, and his upper body is turned, and he moved his head to look down at where he got hit. But just because his upper body was turned, his lower body is still in the stance it was in. So now I have to sort of draw the upper body being moved, but the lower body staying the same. As well as sort of his arm being pushed back because his shoulder was pushed back, as well as reflexively his other hand sort of moving to clutch his shoulder that was just badly damaged. So that's just a sort of mental note of what it is I'm going through, or not what I'm going through, but what's running through my head right now. Now, just for the sake of future animations, what I'm going to do is enter the keyframe right here. Then I'm going to go over with the eraser tool. And I am going to erase this right here just so I'm not distracted by that color red. And I haven't forgotten about this character because she's actually gonna get ready and do another attack. But I sort of have to go by scene to scene and work with what I got. Hmm. I will actually do this. And sort of, let's erase this. Turn on the onion skin. Enter the frame right here. Now this may just be, probably not. It's probably not going to be another second of footage, but what I am doing is I'm going to work ahead. So I'll just insert these extra frames. So then I have a mental note of where everything is, so I can work backwards from there. This character is going to end up kneeling from taking damage. I made the torso too high. How long have I been streaming for? Oh, it says an hour and 37 minutes. That's actually pretty good. Usually I only stream for like an hour, but I am starting to get a bit tired. So I'll probably go till about 5 sounds good. Excuse me, I'm actually checking my phone right now. I'm feeling a bit lazy isn't the right word, but I just gotta take a mental note. Just a mental note. But this is what I love. I just love animating. It's like one big brain exercise of like putting all the pieces together and trying to figure out how the story is meant to come together. It's like animation is just something I'm super passionate about and I love doing. And even these small moments where I'm taking a mental break and I'm sort of letting my brain process what's going on and what I'm doing and what I'm working on as an animator. I even love those small moments. It's just so awesome to tell a story and to want to tell a story. And thinking of all the small things of how that story gets told and how you build up to it. It's so amazing and it's so awesome. And I'm not gonna lie, I did have a depressing moment and a depressing streak where I just wasn't animating and doing art in general. But like I can genuinely say that when I have moments like this where I can just focus on my art and be happy and not just tell a story but want to tell a story and having that love and desire to get my work out there, these moments are when I feel the most alive. And I guess it's a real shame that, at least when it comes to the West, the arts aren't really, even if people don't want to prioritize the arts, people don't even desire to give the arts attention or take them for granted. Like, there's so much stuff that the arts can do, there's so much information that art can be used to preserve. And yeah, I'm a bit of a anime nerd, a bit of a video game nerd, but I like the idea of using art to preserve knowledge or carry some form or degree of emotion, or I guess one could say spiritual preservation. It's almost like a calling to me, I guess I could say, where I feel called to create something, whether it's to draw or paint or tell a story. It's something that I love doing and it's something that I want to do. And I'm definitely thankful. Like, thank God for blessing me with this creativity I have. Thank God for blessing me with the passion I have to keep going and to keep trying despite all of my past failures. I guess I just wish I could get paid from it. And that's the whole thing, and that's the whole reason why I'm still. I'm not going to say it's the only reason, because I do feel as though I have a natural spiritual inclination to draw, to animate, to want to tell stories. Because my whole philosophy and interpretation is like God was the first artist. Like, if we really want to take it there, the man, well, I shouldn't, he's not a man, but the guy literally made a human being from clay. Like, you don't get more creative than that. Because, like, who even thought of making something from dirt? Which is why I never really understood why Christians were so against things like art, things like clay and pottery and drawing and telling stories and using allegory. Like, literally, Jesus was known for telling allegories. And allegories are an amazing way to teach people things. People like stories, people like being entertained. So, why not use entertainment in a positive way to help people? And even if nobody's listening for nobody's searching for a lesson, the least you could do is just have something that touches the soul, that nourishes the soul, that is, I guess you could say, spiritually safe. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, so it's gonna be a 3v1. This is sort of like the main antagonist. Then we have this young character right here, and then the two women are behind him. And so, how it's gonna go is the young character, he's going to dash, but because his powers are related to illusions, he's going to disappear. The two female characters are going to look at each other, look back at the opponent, and then they're going to dash towards him. She's going to use her power. She sort of has like this bubble foam chemical sort of like ability, and she's going to shoot some at him. The enemy's going to dodge, weave out of it. This character uses her voice, and she sort of like building up energy in her hand, and then she's going to shoot a beam at him at his shoulder. He's going to crouch down and get hurt. And then the whole thing is he's going to charge up an attack. And try to shoot it at her who just hit him. But the character who was like in this first few seconds that went invisible is going to take his cane and sort of like pull the dude's arm back. And that's sort of going to be the most action intensive shot. And obviously I haven't abandoned her because she's going to be ready to make another attack. I just haven't really focused on her yet. That's one of the things I learned drawing from and analyzing Monty Ohm's animations is keeping your characters busy. Even if they're not doing something, they're still doing something in the scene. And that's something that I've wanted to adapt and learn how to do with my animations, is keeping the characters busy. So even though she's not doing anything right now, I still got her ready to act should the need arise. Wow, it's almost been like 2 hours. I mean, but then again, this is probably the most I've animated in the past 2 days. You see, here's the thing. I wanted to make a special video, and I felt like I had to make a video, especially for Black History Month. And then because of the whole thing with like coloring dark skinned characters, I wanted to do something. And because that's been weighing on my mind, and then it's like, oh, it's Black History Month, I might as well make that video on how I color dark skin. And that video is actually doing really good. Like every couple of seconds, I will refresh the page and I get like 5 or sometimes even 10 more views on that video, which I'm very happy and very proud of because it's been a while since I've gotten that much traction on my channel. And so it's sort of like hand in hand, where yes, the main thing I want to be doing is animating, but because I also do a lot of character design, because I have to, I end up doing making a lot of original characters, doing a lot of character designs, wanting to work on characters for my original series that I'm making. So I end up doing a lot of other art related stuff and other art related projects like YouTube shorts and like other videos that aren't even that doesn't even have B-roll of me animating, but more so has B-roll of me working on concept art, stuff like that. But like the main thing I want to do is be an animator and do animations for a living. So I have to focus more on my animations, and that just has to be a thing I do. So I'm very much thankful for all of the new subscribers I've gotten, for all the new support I've gotten, for the growth of my channel. Thank God and thank you all. And I have a missed call. It's from the Carolina workforce. It might be an ad caller because I was looking at them online, and the whole thing with them is that like so they have an office suite in downtown Raleigh, but it ends up being that when I search it online, that suite is actually owned by a law firm. So I'm concerned and I'm worried that it might be a scam because I have been scammed before when I'm looking for jobs and looking for work. That's one of the scariest things. Because I used to have another job. I used to have two part time jobs. I got rid of one of, not necessarily got rid of, but I stopped working at one of them because it was with childcare and like not gonna talk too much about that job, but kids these days are freaking terrible. That's really all I can say, and that's all that can be said. Is kids these days are not like when I was growing up, and that's saying something because I'm Gen Z. That is definitely saying something. Kids these days are terrible. It's almost been 2 hours. Hmm. I'm actually doing really good on views. So I'm at least going to draw this little frame of like him getting up and going to attack this character. Hmm, it's a good placeholder because I'm about to stop for the day. But thank you all for stopping by. Um, I'll probably stream again either Thursday or Friday. But for now, you guys can just replay my stream because I've been talking about my art, the plans for this animation, wanting to animate more, yada yada yada, all that good stuff. I'm not really much of a talkative person. I don't really have a lot of stuff to talk about. Like, it feels like every other big animator has all these crazy stories about what goes on in their life. Whereas me, my life is more so milk toast. Like, I can't be a storytime animator. And not that I can't be, but it's like all of my personal experiences are pretty tame in comparison to others that have all this crazy stuff they've gone through. So I sort of just have to let the own original stories I come with, as well as my writing, speak for me and my ability. But this is a good stopping point, and I'll likely stream again Thursday or Friday. I definitely want to get back into my groove of animating on a regular basis. And I would definitely be more open to night streams as well. Like I feel like night streams would be really fun. But anyway, I hope you all enjoyed. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share even. Look at some of my past streams as well. I have a whole podcast of all of the past streams I've done. I also have some videos I've done as well. Some character design videos, animation tips and tricks, art tips I've done, analysis videos as well. And yeah, you can always rewatch my stuff. I'm a pretty chill dude. There's really nothing. I'm just that sort of chill channel you come to if you just want to hear, if you either want silence or if I guess you want a calming voice that talks a lot about nothing. Anyways, I see you guys in my next video or live stream. Thanks for watching. Bye.